Bonjour, messieurs, dames, et bienvenue à DIXIT. C'est un jeu fantastique et créatif qui aime to, well, it is French. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Rogue Review's review of DIXIT. So what is DIXIT? Well, it's kind of a storytelling game, kind of a guessing game, kind of a card game, kind of a language game, many of these things in one. You are using the beautiful artwork and sort of creative devices involved in the cards involved to kind of tell a story and get other friends or basically people playing the game with you to kind of guess which card you are thinking of. So in that respect, the mechanics are fairly simple. However, the beautiful art style, the interesting interplay of language is what sets this game apart. It is definitely on the simple side of things, which makes it a really, really good gateway game for people who want to try and introduce the hobby. This is one of the first games I played at our Games Club in Headingley Heart, and it was one that I basically put other people onto as well. And this has kind of helped introduce people to a different way of playing away from the traditional style games that they might have been used to already. There's lots to enjoy here, even in that sort of simple remit. The artwork is all done in a kind of beautiful, interesting and creative style that kind of adds layers of detail. And obviously the more you look at the artwork, the more you look at the cards, the more you kind of get from it. This is definitely a family favourite. We've come back to it again and again and again because it's kind of less weight to it, but overall quite simple and creative enjoyment. There's lots of participation between the players in a positive way, not a detrimental way. So that's another element to have in its favour. There's lots of expansions you can add to this. We've added a few little bits to it, but overall I think the base game does stand for itself. It'll be an interesting experience for you to play. It'll be it'll be a creative time. You'll play around with art, you'll play around with language. Hopefully you'll have a lot of fun. So let's find out a little bit more in the table view. Okay then, I'm listening. Tell me more about how DIXIT is played. Well, at the heart of this game is a hand of cards and some clues from the one player to the other players. What you'll notice about the cards is that they have their own fascinating style of their own. There's lots of different kind of creative elements within there, some fairly simple ideas, and yet also there's extra little things that catch you out the more that you look at them. What you're going to be doing is with your hand of cards, everyone starts off with 6 cards in their hand. 6 cards in their hand. What they need to do basically is to choose one of these cards to describe in some way to the other players. They can give a word, they can basically sing a line of a song, they can give a quote. They can't say things like it begins with or it starts with, or you get the idea. They can't make it too screamingly obvious or too ridiculously difficult. What they then do, for example, is choose a card, for example this one, and say a word or phrase, for example, danger. Because in this idea, the cat very well might like to eat lovely, lovely fish. They then basically conceal their card. The other players haven't seen this. And then the other players look at their own hands to try and find a card equally as good, which also signifies danger. For example, this one. This is also quite clearly a dangerous situation. They then take their cards and pass them to the person who actually started the round. Overall, there will be a number of players and a number of cards. So say, for example, in a 4-player game, the person who actually came up with the idea will come up with 4 cards, all of which will hopefully feel danger in some way. So danger, 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 and danger. Quite good cards, these. They will then lay them out in front of them, remind everybody of the phrase, after, of course, having shuffled them. And the other players will have to try and guess which one was theirs. So they might say, danger, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, of course, the other players know which one their card was, but they don't know what everyone else's ones were. If they've done a good job of basically disguising the card, their own card will be even better expounded that particular word or phrase than the person whose turn it is. So, let's say, for example, the person who had the card was the green player. They've said, oh, so is it danger 1, danger 2, danger 3, or danger 4? And then everybody else has kind of got a vote. So, the other 3 players kind of go, well, let me have a think in their hands. They've got a number of little card tokens that basically represent the different choices. They then conceal one and choose one without telling the players, like, oh, I think it's this one, I think it's that one, I think it's that one. So basically, once they've made their choices, you can then ask them to reveal which ones they were. Right, okay. So, the red person basically, has correctly guessed the right card. Fantastic. Okay, so the person reveals, well, my card was actually number 1. Oh, brilliant. So, because the person who is red has done a good job of guessing, they get 3 points, and they move on to the delightful track, which is clearly insane because it is rabbits moving around a garden. How very, very odd. Okay, so they move on 3 points from where they were. Because the green player's done a good job of guessing, or giving clues, they get to move on 3 points as well. Now, the interesting point happens with the others. Blue has not guessed correctly. Oh dear, they don't get any points. Pink has not guessed correctly. Oh dear, they don't get any points. Or do they? Because whoever put this card down and this card down conveyed the idea of danger so well that other people voted for them. Well, it turns out that this card, in fact, was red's card. So they confuse the people away from getting the answer. They get a bonus point. This card, turns out, was blue's. They did a very good job. They also get a bonus point. So when it's your turn, the best you can do is basically to get 3 points. But if it's not your turn, you can kind of steal bonus points from the other players. However, if you make the card so hard that nobody gets it, they'll get 2 points and you get nothing. If you made the card so easy that everybody gets it, they'll get 2 points and you get nothing. So what you basically do is you add the points onto the round, and as you can see, everyone starts off on 0 and they are trying to get around to 30 places and win first. Fantastic. The cards are then tidied away. They can lovely be put in the well at the centre of the cardboard, and then a new card is dealt out to everybody and their tiles are returned to them. Okay. Play then proceeds clockwise, and it's the next person's turn to give their card out to guess. So, as the game goes on, you will get more and more interesting cards to play with. Some of them can be quite simple, others can be as confusing as you like. If you have things like various little fun in-jokes between yourself, that can also be exceptionally good to play with. Now, obviously, the best way to play this is to kind of give a clue that's good enough so that some people get it, but not everybody. But hard enough that not everybody gets it, but obviously some people need to get it. So there's a lot of sort of in-player communication and sort of like you kind of get a bit of teamwork going on here, or at least nervous alliances, because you are indeed all playing competitively to win. However, there is kind of like a shared atmosphere of good humour when you play this game, and there is kind of a little bit of sort of help here and there if you need it. Overall, we found it's a very, very friendly game to play. Very, very little elements of things like player versus player. And people obviously quite supportive and quite interesting and quite humorous. They like laughing at in-jokes. And also, if somebody basically completely strikes out, whether make it too hard or too easy, there is kind of collaboration there and a bit of commiseration for them as well. There are extra cards that are available. You can basically buy further packs of cards which add to the game. We basically bought DIXIT 2 and found that the extra cards are somewhat more stylized and somewhat limited choices, for example. Like what they are is more kind of obvious or kind of esoteric. For example, well, is it Egyptian? Is it rain? Is it sea? Is it all sorts? You're not quite sure. There are also a few special edition cards that were basically given out as promos at different events, and these are lovely and gorgeous and can be added to your game without any difference whatsoever. You will notice that this is kind of a different art style from the original artist, but still very, very good. As the game progresses, you'll get a sense of competition and race when other players start gaining more and more and more points. It can be quite frustrating, for example, if you start to be left behind and everyone else starts zooming ahead. However, you can definitely try and fight your way back, and a couple of good turns really does make the difference in terms of the leaderboard. What we've basically found is that sometimes there are clues that are just too general, sometimes there are clues that are just too specific, and some ideas like magic and danger will be in about 30 different cards. So they're quite good cards in order that everyone will have a card to play. However, it makes it much harder for you actually to win. Whereas, for example, if you said things like pocket watch, then everyone's going to guess immediately which card is yours. So light on tactics, light on strategy, but still lots of good entertainment to be had. So would you enjoy DIXIT? I would say most people will enjoy DIXIT if they like a certain amount of wordplay, if they like a certain amount of creativity. They like to have jokes between themselves, so that's quite good. People who find it very, very hard to communicate their ideas would struggle a little bit more at this game. If you're kind of more introverted, for example, then you might not be less expressive. However, there are still things that you obviously share with people who know you quite well. So this is a really, really great game to play with people who are very close friends or family, because any sort of like subtle nuances that you were to put into your guesses and clues, they'll be able to pick up on. So that's the strength. It's very, very light and simple in terms of length and duration. I mean, our games never really last more than an hour, often about half an hour in length. You can play for longer if you want to. You can try and extend things or make it a bit more elaborate or make it sort of own house rules. But generally, a half an hour, 30, 40 minutes game is more than enough for us. It's light, it's creative, it's fun, it's not too much of a drag. So basically, you can put this on as an earlier game before playing something a bit more long and crunchy later on for the rest of your evening. So altogether, lots of entertainment, simple rules, good work art. I think it's time to go to the final thoughts. So, overall impressions of DIXIT. Positive, definitely positive. It is definitely the game that it is of itself. It is an artistic game, it is a linguistic game, it's a creative game, it's a game of interpretation and guessing and clues. So, if that's kind of your element, if you kind of enjoy sort of a bit of banter with other players, this could very, very well be a good game for you. If you like the creative art style, this is a good game. If you kind of like going back and revisiting different territory, because obviously you will play similar cards again and again and again, the more games you play of this. You will play a lot of games of this. It's a very, very good game for repeat play, and it doesn't drag necessarily on repeat play. In terms of the actual different interpretations of the cards, each card can be interpreted a number of different ways, which give legs to the game. Of course, if you want to, you can buy the extra cards, you can buy the extra expansions, which again keeps your game fresh, because there are pictures that people haven't seen. Although, having said that, it is often quite good to kind of see cards that you're very familiar of, especially if you've kind of like got cute little attachments to them and enjoy like, oh, it's that card again, I love giving this clue, or it's that card again. And the thing I've never noticed about that card before is that it's this. So either way, this game has got lots of legs. The very fact that it's quite light means it kind of broadens its playing appeal. You can play this with younger children, older children, beginners, non-gamers, gamers. This is a game that will appeal to quite a lot of people. The short duration of the game, again about half an hour, makes it very, very feasible for an early game in your evening, or in terms of a light or creative game, kind of like an icebreaker. And again, as I said, this makes a very, very good gateway game, which also opens it up as a present game that you can give to people and kind of welcome them into the wonderful world of gaming as we know it. In terms of what a game of this would look like if you walk past their table, it would be chatty, it would be light, it would be sort of low tension. It would be very, very full of enjoyment, lots of laughs and jokes flying around, and people would appear to be having a very good time. Okay? In terms of why might you not like this game? If you are very, very heavy strategy, if you have sort of like multiple depth to your games, if you only prefer to consider heavy games, this game isn't for you. If you like light and medium games, well, this game's probably for you. So overall, DIXIT, a great round of entertainment. Fun to play, definitely. Fun to buy. Yes, it is. It's good to have your collection to play with a different number of people. So, thank you very much for joining us today. If you want to get in contact, as always, you can find us at rogueartistcreations.com. You can find us on Facebook at Rogue Artist Creations. Our Twitter handle is at RogueACreations, and you can reach me at gmfirst at rogueartistcreations.com. Thank you very much for joining us. Please subscribe. We're getting a few more subscribers now, which is brilliant, but we do need your help. So please share, please like, please comment, do anything you can to kind of help us get us out there. We're still quite small, but we hope to be big one day. Thank you very, very much for joining us for DIXIT. And for now, au revoir.